All right. Good morning, everyone. Going a little slow this morning. Vacation's over. Kids are going back to school today, so don't know how much time I'm going to get, but we'll see. Thank you, JeffMan12, for following, and Federico Barari for following as well. Um, yeah, my multi-chat. Not sure how it works with that, but those people are either from Twitch or YouTube. So thank you guys. Excuse me. Just getting my bearings here. All right, let's get into it. All right, got my controller working here. All right, good. My volume's up. My mic is going. Got the live streams on. All right, we're all set. Okay, so don't know if anybody will notice, but I did remove the custom textures. Hopefully that will help with resource heavy instances in the game. Okay, I got the 3 things. Okay, I fought the boss. I guess I gotta go there. Yeah, I got rid of the texture packs. I thought uh, the game was starting to slow down a lot, and when there were a lot of assets on the screen. So I figured higher resolution was more important than HD textures. But I'd love to hear people's opinions on that. Some people love the HD texture mods. I played through Ship of Harkinian, the PC port of Ocarina of Time, with an HD texture mod, and it was a lot of fun. It was an older N64 game, so it ran at like 100 something FPS, which is really cool. But it didn't have the same look to it. Hang on, I'm just gonna check out one thing here. And yes, I know I am standing in a place where I'm taking damage, but I got the dark suit now, so I don't have to worry too much about that. Just want to bring up X here so I can monitor the chat, just in case someone says anything before we really get going here. All right. Is my stream muted? Good. Okay. All right. Here we go. So yeah, I just beat a boss. I forget his name. He was a triple giant worm thingy attached to a ball. Kind of a weird way to describe it, but there it is. Thank you for those of you who are interacting with my short clips, my shorts. It's nice to hear your thought. I had someone comment on how, I think they just made a kind of a throwaway comment about how part of the reason that Samus was so unlikable in Other M, because that's one of the biggest complaints about Other M, is that they made Samus unlikable. Again, I've never played it myself. I really should, as a fan of the series, just because it's part of gaming history, even if it's bad. And what am I doing? Even if it's bad, it's part of gaming history, and it's good to sometimes play bad games so you get a better idea of what good games are like. But one of the big complaints about it was they made Samus unlikable, and some of the writing was kind of silly when it came to like the reason how she needed authorization to use her suit's upgrades, which was that was kind of the function of her upgrades. And I know a lot of people didn't like the fact that um, there were some complaints about it, that it was that her relationship to Adam Malkovich, her superior, was I don't know, I don't want to use the term sexist, but the fact that she had to ask him for approval, which in the context of the story, like I haven't played it, but I know that the context is she's kind of reintegrating into a military force, and he wants her to be able to follow orders. So I don't think the intent of Team Ninja was to was to show that Samus was not a strong, empowered woman, but rather uh, someone who could follow orders and play as a team. So I don't think they pulled it off, obviously, because people didn't like it. Um, but the comment that someone made, that was a throwaway comment, was that she was upset because of the instance that happened with the baby, which I know the intro cutscene to Other M is the events of Metroid, the events of Super Metroid at the end, where the baby, the tiny Metroid, wait for my bird clock, where the tiny baby Metroid saves you. Well, he's not tiny anymore. The baby Metroid you saved in um, Metroid 2: Return of Samus comes in and saves you from Mother Brain at the end. And having built a relationship with that Metroid, which is interesting because she didn't really have enough time to do that, because she captured it and then she gave it to scientists, and then for some reason, like, that Metroid like imprinted on her when she rescued it and formed a bond with her. I don't know if she formed a bond with it, but I think Other M is kind of playing that up. And as much as I don't like the I don't think they did that aspect of the story well. They needed a bit more setup to kind of make it believable that that thing would that event would traumatize Samus. Um, I do kind of like that direction that they were going. I think there's two things I could make the character of Samus kind of grow into gradually over time with good writing. It'd be one, um, she is her culture, like the way she interacts is like very much Chozo. Like if they could kind of build out the Chozo culture and then make Samus more like that than human cultures, I think that would be really great. Um, Even to the point of having her only speak Chozo. Okay, that's a temple grounds. Good. It would be something I think that they haven't done before in a lot of games. What is this? The energy of Agon cannot leave the land it is bound to. Return to the energy of. Oh, oops. But yeah, make her totally Chozo in her culture. If they're gonna go down the route of giving her more of a personality and making the series more cinematic and broadening the story of Samus and all that fun stuff, go a different direction. We don't need another quippy Marvel character. Okay, we don't need that. Um, we want, or I want, and I think would be best for the series, to have a more unique character that has her own unique um, quirks and um, what am I trying to say? Social awkwardness because of a contrast of cultures. I think that'd be really cool. The other aspect I think that they should do, which they will never in a million years do, I feel like in with the way things are, is really um, lean into the motherly aspect of Samus. Really lean into that Metroid, uh, the that she was the mother of that Metroid, and how part of her upbringing in her Chozo culture is to protect those who are weaker than herself, like a mother bald eagle or something like that. They could even do that in Metroid Prime 4. She's got these four Federation troopers who she's trying to help out, and it's very clear, even from the trailer, that she is the most competent. She's also the biggest. I really like how Prime 4 remembered the fact that Samus is actually a rather large person, probably due to her Chozo DNA. Um, so she's not. I mean, I think at this point in the series, of the Metroid Prime series, she's definitely part Chozo and part human, and of course later part Metroid, part X, whatever you want to call it. So she's part many things by the end of the series there, I guess. Um, but yeah, leaning into the kind of motherly aspect of Samus, I think would be really really cool. Again, you don't see that sort of thing nowadays, but the usually the strong female character archetype, you don't think mother. You think more. Um, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good example of a strong female character that is also a mother, and what comes to mind is Sarah Connor. Sarah Connor did everything she could to protect her son. Uh, and Ripley, which, of course, Ripley in Aliens. The first one was based off of Alien. The second one, Alien, and I think Aliens was also. I don't know if Aliens came out at the time of Metroid, but I know the first Metroid was based off of Alien, at least, and Ripley. But Ripley protecting Newt in Aliens. Those are two strong female characters that display motherly attitudes towards young and those weaker than themselves, that I think would be really cool to work in to Samus's character. Unfortunately, like I said, I don't know if that would be well received or not. Um, there does seem to be, and it's mostly because that motherliness is typically traditionally viewed as a female role, and I know that traditional female stereotypes, as well as the traditional male stereotype as the machismo character, it's hit or miss with the fan base in a lot of different games, and which is why if you're gonna put a machismo character and a machismo male character that that evokes characters of the past in past decades, or a motherly character that evokes characters of the past in past decades, you got to do it right. You got to have quality writing. You got to get us to care for the character. From what I understand, Other M made Samus unlikable, but then never rectified it. You can intentionally make a character unlikable right at the start of your game or story or whatever, with the intent of making them likable at the end. It's called a character arc, and as long as Samus has a character arc, then it's okay to kind of make them, not appealing at the very beginning of your game. A good character that actually the series that actually pulled that off was the Star Wars Clone Wars series. Ahsoka Tano, when she first debuted, was hated. She was annoying. She she acted too impulsively, and I believe that was on purpose. They did that so that people wouldn't like her. But then she grew with the series. She had a huge character arc spanning seasons, uh, and eventually she became a fan favorite. I even was like, wow, at the end of the series, I was like, okay, well, she actually had a good character arc. She grew as a person, um, and now she's moved from unlikable to likable. So it's totally possible to do. You just have to do it well with good writing. Okay, so now that I returned the energy, I'm going to go back to that door that wouldn't let me in. I will say, having played it on with the HD textures, um, I need to stop saying a lot. I have to do a lot of editing in my videos because I am saying too much. Sorry if if that bothers you. I'm working on it. Okay. Frame rates are still dropping here, but not as much. So I'll take it. Okay, going through there. But yeah, having played it with the HD textures, I have to say, the HD textures are nice, but the game still looks really good. I know I'm playing at a higher resolution, which helps a lot. Um, but the textures of the GameCube, oh man, I said again. Textures of the GameCube were not that bad. Can I go in there now? Oh no, that's not right. Okay. Sonic security. Oh, that's right, the Sonic stuff. I remember that now. Okay, now we can get where we need to go. I hope this is where we need to go. Dark suit looks really cool. Just gonna check a few things here. Alright, we're back. Little spiders here. Kill them. Kill them good. I had a couple comments on my statements on preparing my children and the types of games that I want them to play, and I think as I've been kind of mulling this over, there's a portal there. Oh, I'm gonna go back to my ship. Look at that! I can get through that whole thing. Okay, this way. Something I've been thinking about a lot is when I was reading through rules of play, One of the markers of what they would consider a quality game is something called complexity. Oh, did it just freeze or crash? I think it crashed. Wow, that was really random. FPS was fine. That's weird. Alright, I guess we'll have to start it up again. That's annoying. Sorry, guys. I'll move a bit faster this time. Give me 1 second. Be right back. Okay, got the audio back. Yeah, that crash messed some things up. Audio good? Tim, thanks for watching. Yeah, looks like the scene to scene, the sources still carry over with my settings there. Okay, nice. Awesome. So let me reiterate again what I was saying. All right. Okay. We're going the right direction now. So yeah, what I was saying was the idea of complexity in game design is when you have all these different assets and all these different gameplay mechanics uh, that you, the developer, you have some idea of how you want them to interact, but then you watch people actually play your game, and they find interactions that you didn't intend. That's complexity. Like an extreme, and you want that in your game. And these are instances where your game doesn't break. That when your game breaks because of that same thing where objects interact in a way that causes bugs, then you got a problem. That's not complexity. I'm talking about like in Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom, especially because it's a game builder. I mean, it's a builder type of game. You get all these different items and things, and you can combine them in ways that they're endless. Like the things that people have created in Tears of the Kingdom, it's just incredible, and there's seems to be no end to them, and there's no way for the developers to predict what's going on or how many different combinations of the items they can make. They know what's going to happen. That's what I mean by complexity, and that can happen on a smaller scale as well. Like if you're playing Mega Man X, any of the Mega Man games or Mega Man X, part of the fun of that series is once you get all of the Robot Master's powers, you can then use those to navigate levels. And there's the intended way to do it, probably the way the developer thought, and then there's the unintended way to do it. You use different powers in different ways to make it through the level. It's very simple. It doesn't have to be as complex as Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild, but it just has to. It kind of has to provoke creativity. It has to, not break your game and not create what. Ideally, it doesn't create what's called a degenerate strategy, which is another thing that we can talk about in a minute. That's basically like spamming a boss. You don't want that. You don't want that to happen in your game. To find a strategy that is just so good that it takes all fun out of the game or challenge. But yeah, that's one aspect of a game that I would consider quality is complexity. There has to be ways in which the elements of the game interact with one another so that there's multiple ways of doing things, even on a very simple level. Okay, to bring back Mega Man X again, like you have multiple ways of, maybe with not like the first boss you fight, because you only have your X Buster and not a lot of upgrades, but as the game goes on and you get more upgrades and more weapons to fight with, you can find different what works for you in a way. There's the intended way, which is the weakness of the boss, but then there's unintended ways that you might be able to find that could work for you. I know it's not the best example, but that's kind of what I'm getting at. If I think of any more better examples of complexity, I'll bring them up here. And I only bring up other games because right now I'm trying to think of a good example of complexity in Metroid Prime. But I think with it, the complexity is not so much in the like the weapons you have, but in how you engage in combat. So I wouldn't say the complexity is too high in in the Metroid Prime series, but there's enough of it there so that I can basically choose what I do and engage enemies in different ways. I can freeze them, I can blast them with my light, I can run away, that kind of thing. And complexity is good because excuse me. Complexity is good because it increases the sense of player agency, which is another important aspect of a game, any game. The player needs to feel like what they're doing matters and that they have control over what's going on to some extent. Even in linear games, you know, you can still have this agency. It's just on a smaller scale within the level. I can choose how to interact with the enemies in the way that I want to interact. Metroid games tend to have a lot of agency, because they're open. You can explore how you want. As I said last stream, we're now in the part of the game a lot of Metroid games branch into, where there is a right way to go, but now that I have so many different upgrades, it branches out, and I can choose where to go, and I can choose to progress the game or not to. That's another simple thing about agency. And complexity increases that agency because it gives me the feeling that I don't have to engage with enemies, or I don't have to engage with the map in one singular way. I can do it how I want to do it. It's one of those things that you don't particularly notice in a good game that does it right. But you know, I always love that phrase from Red Letter Media that Mr. Plinkett has when he's pointing out really small details in movies. You know, he says, it happened so fast you might not have noticed it, but your brain did. And I think that's the point there. Your brain notices these things whether you know it or not. Okay, so when I entered this room a few minutes ago, it crashed. I'm wondering if I can get to that save point and save so I don't have to backtrack again and do all that stuff. So I'm going to try that again, and hopefully we won't lose the game, or the game will crash. Okay. Alright, so far so good. I'm hoping that was just like a one-time thing that happened and not something that I'm going to have to mess with over and over. Alright, good. Another user that I follow on X, they were saying about when it comes to any type of game, whether it's a video game or board game, games are all about designing a system in which the player can make interesting choices. That's the simplest way to put it. If you design a system in which a player can interact with the environment within the rules that you created, and they can make choices that impact things, then you've got a good start to your game there. Okay, when I walk down this hallway, let's see what happens. Okay, so far so good. Got these red tentacle-y thingies. Alright, I think we might be okay. Alright. Hopefully that was just a one-time thing. But like a good paranoid gamer, I am going to save again. Oh look, that was there the whole time. I wonder if that's... Someone probably translated that. Nintendo does stuff like that. Almost looks like the Sheikah language in Breath of the Wild. That'd be really cool if that was the same language. It's confirmed. Metroid and Zelda are in the same universe. Stone Talus. Okay, remember that big? I can't remember. I'm forgetting his name. The big rock boss from Metroid Prime One. That's a Stone Talus. You know, functions in the same way. And there's one that you fight in Breath of the Wild that definitely came from outer space. You fight it in an impact crater. So there you go. I actually hope Nintendo does not do that. That would be really bad. Let's not do that, Nintendo. We don't. Not everything has to be a shared universe with everything else within all of your IPs. Sadly, though, I think that that's where the movie's going. I said again. Sorry. Aw. See, this is what I'm talking about. In Metroid Prime 1, you come across all these lore tablets, and they're really somber and sad and everything like that. And in this game, it's just like, here's a dead Luminoth. Here's a dead space pirate. Here's a dead Marine. And they're all these things that you come across. It's just like, they're all dead. Congratulations. Really adds to that somber tone I've been harping on. Metroid is not a very what is shooting at? Metroid is not a very feel good type of game, and that's fine. Okay, not every game needs to be a feel good type of game. It's like that nice in between of a horror game and a feel good game. You know, you're just kind of meant to enjoy the atmosphere. Okay, need a super missile for that. Okay, yeah, so we got complexity, we've got player agency, quality gameplay loop. Those would make a quality game. Again, not every game needs a story. You know, you can have a fun game without a good story. But obviously, good storytelling practices. If your game is going to have a story, at least tell a good one. And understand the genre that you're trying to make your game for, and the story that best fits for it. Okay, so Metroid games, they have a story. It's very basic, but because of the way the game is set up, it's hard to tell a deeper linear story. You can do it, and they do it by breaking up the different segments of the game. But much of the story is discovered if you want, which is another aspect of player agency in these games. You can interact with the story in a way that you want to. I don't have to read all the logs. I'm not reading all the logs now for the sake of the stream, but I did when I was a kid. Okay, looks like that was a dead end. Sorry for wasting everybody's time. So yeah, the story here is more of the story has to be one that's discoverable, and stories that lend themselves well to this type of game where you're discovering the story as you go based on what you do and how much you pay attention to, are ones where something has already happened and you have no idea what happened, and you're finishing out the last part of that story. Like the story of Aether and Dark Aether much of it has already happened, as evidenced by all the dead things around. And now you are playing out the end of that story. Other games that do this, and they do this really well, are Breath of the Wild and Hollow Knight and Silksong. Those games do this really, really well. It's very clear that at the beginning of those games, a lot has already happened, and you got to figure out what happened, or you don't have to, but you can. And the order in which you find things out doesn't necessarily matter, because much of the story has already happened. All the events of the story has already happened, and you're just piecing it together. Now, to contrast that, a game that did not match the kind of story it had was... I'm always nervous going into these portals. A game that did not match the story that it had was Tears of the Kingdom. Now, Tears of the Kingdom is an incredible game. It is definitely a masterpiece in its own right, but the story it was trying to tell didn't match the overall design of the game. I say that because depending on how you collected the tears, you could spoil the story for yourself. You could figure out almost right away, and I'm going to spoil the games if you haven't played it yet, but you could figure out right away that Zelda was the light dragon, and that was very clearly the climax of Zelda's storyline. And because of that, you could basically remove all sorts of storyline tension from the game. What they needed to do was make it so that no matter what order you found them in, it triggered the linear story. That's what they needed to do. And the reason why this didn't work is because the events of the story, I know that happened in the past, the events of the story hadn't already happened yet from a storytelling perspective. And so that's why that type of storytelling with that story didn't really work. It worked with Breath of the Wild because, again, you already knew the end of the story. The calamity happened, and you were just finishing it. And now you had the option to figure out the story and figure out what happened. Or not. There are also a lot of other things wrong with Tears of the Kingdom. Again, it's a great game. Play it. You will have a lot of fun. But I almost wish I had played Breath of the Wild. I hadn't played Breath of the Wild, so I would have encountered an entirely new Hyrule. Now, if you compare like Metroid Prime to a game like BioShock, BioShock had a mix of a linear story and a story where things had already happened. Like, very clearly you get to Rapture and everything's already happened, but you still interact with characters to progress the story forward, so it's more of a middle ground between the two, and it's less about exploration and more about combat. So more heavy exploration games, I think you have to be very careful with how you tell the story. Okay, I got a missile pack here, and there's no way to go. So we're going back. Music is not really something that I weigh very heavily when it comes to critiquing a game as to what I value in it. I think it's because music kind of just adds to the atmosphere of the game itself, and you can have a great game that doesn't have necessarily the best soundtrack. Metroid Dread is a good example of this because that game, except for its music, is incredible. Music is one of those things that can push a game more closer towards the iconic status than uh, than actually determine if it's a good game or not. You know, I think of I think the song where you fight Sephiroth in Final Fantasy VII, One Winged Angel. Like that's a great song. And I haven't even played Final Fantasy VII, but it's those little things with an additional adding to the polish of the game that push it into the icon that push it beyond a good game into an iconic game. Thankfully, I feel like, well, Metroid Dread, unfortunately, I don't think has reached that iconic status. I think it should, because it's an incredible game. But unfortunately, I think it didn't do much to push Metroid into the mainstream, and I think that's okay. But part of being iconic is getting more and more mainstream attention. It's not the it shouldn't be that's a hard one. It shouldn't be a goal, but I guess it should be a goal, but you have to do it in a careful way, and I think Metroid Prime 4 is really going to make a push for it to being an iconic game. And I think part of that is because they are trying to appeal to a wider audience, which again is not a bad thing. They just have to be careful to maintain what makes Metroid Metroid, and also take the game further and develop the game and evolve the game to appeal to players who it normally wouldn't appeal to. And honestly, I think that's what's going to keep Silksong from becoming Game of the Year. I don't think Silksong should become Game of the Year because it is still a very niche game. It's a masterpiece for sure, but if you don't like that type of gameplay, like even people who love Metroidvanias don't like Silksong and Hollow Knight because they're so long. But what Team Cherry did is they recognized what their players loved about Hollow Knight, and they evolved the game. They took it further, but in that niche, in that, like, if you love Hollow Knight, you will love Silksong. I think that's a pretty safe statement to say. Not to say that there's going to be no one who didn't like Hollow Knight or liked Hollow Knight but not Silksong. But you got what I'm saying here. Graphics, of course, are another area, kind of like the music of the game, where the graphics can be like, we all know games that have great graphics that are just awful, and we all know games that have horrible graphics and everyone loves. So it's just a matter of good graphics, and when I say good graphics, I mean quality animations, quality artwork. I don't mean high def realism. Okay, that's not what I mean. Like, Wind Waker HD had good graphics. Dead Cells has good graphics. That in its own way, for its time, Metroid Prime has good graphics. Okay, it doesn't just mean HD textures and all that. It means quality art is what I'm trying to say. Can I don't think I can scan this yet. We'll see. No. This door is blocked. Telecommunicating barrier is present. It's mental. Oh, okay. I gotta go talk to Umoth, who is named Umoth and looks like a moth. I'm just putting that together now. I don't know why. I don't know why. That took me a while. See, even without the HD textures, he looks great. The Torvis sector. The enemy's on the move. So I guess here in Prime 2 you can see you can see the shift start to happen towards more story driven. Because again, Metroid Prime 2 didn't have any NPCs. Pretty sure it didn't. And the whole game itself was probably more like the original Metroid than anything else. In that you just had to wander around. You didn't have any objectives. I mean, towards the end you did. You had to get the 8 keys. But that was pretty much it. This one, you know, he very clearly gave me a, hey, go here now type of thing. And from what I remember, this doesn't happen very much in this game. It does happen for sure. But but I think in Metroid Prime 3, because of the way it's divided into different planets and traveling to different planets, it is more linear in that sense. And someone told me, one of the comments when I was talking about Other M was that I should play Sorry, I just got distracted here. Good question, Eamon Oni. Nice to see you here. Honestly, I'm still a noob at this. I had the chat muted on X as well until I figured that out. Is that still muted? Oh, man. I have to select that every time I make a... Oh, man. I'm sorry. You're right. It is muted. I have to... is there... Man, why did they do that? I have to set... Okay, I guess there's no default for that. Thanks for pointing that out, Eamon. I appreciate that. I'll remember to to unmute the chat, which is set by default on X when you create a broadcast. Thanks for going the extra effort to log into YouTube or or Twitch. Okay, yeah, but what I was saying before I was wisely interrupted with some nice help there. was someone pointed out that Metroid Fusion had it was probably the most linear of the 2D Metroid games because it had very clear like, hey, go here, hey, go here, hey, go here. And I remember playing that as a kid and picking up on that. It wasn't like Zero Mission or Super Metroid or Metroid Prime. So I think the series is very clearly going in that direction because they want to tell a more complete story, but they can't do that unless they guide you to specific areas at specific times. And I don't know if that's going to drastically change the feel of Metroid in a good way, or not. It probably will, but if maybe they can pull it off, I don't know. Well, see, funny thing, it's not tonight for me. It's actually 5:54 in the morning. Got started a little late today. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I don't mean to throw too much shade on Fusion because it had that horror aspect to it that was really cool. Like evading the SAX, they did a good job of making you feel vulnerable, and that carried over into Dread as well. Yeah, Dread and Fusion did a great job of making you feel vulnerable and edging the game more towards that horror genre, which is pretty cool. They could make a horror Metroid game. I actually think that'd be really cool. Been up all night. Oh, I miss those days. And here I am wondering when my kid is going to come right through that door, rubbing his eyes, telling me he doesn't want to go to school. Okay, just came from there. Yeah, I think a horror Metroid game would be pretty sweet. Think like a combination of... Well, I guess they've already done that. Just play Dead Space. Dead Space is pretty much a horror Metroid game. Yeah, definitely. They're definitely going, and it's probably the most worrisome part. They're definitely trying to go with the whole, as many people have said before. I didn't come up with this. They're definitely going with the whole like Guardians of the Galaxy type feel for it. They need that quippy character because it's been so popular in stories recently. I think it's a mistake. But, it doesn't mean the game won't be good. Everyone hates Navi, but Ocarina of Time's pretty iconic, so hopefully it won't ruin the game. Navi was a bit more restrained though due to hardware limitations. But hopefully, I'm really hoping this guy is not talking in your ear the whole time. Or you have the ability to shut it off. Or they're going to pull a Sonic at the last minute and completely change the way he interacts with Samus. Like how they changed Sonic's design. I know, I bring up Navi even though she didn't really bother me very much. I actually liked having a little fairy character around. I thought it was awesome. And they fit her mechanic in well with the actual story of the game, which is another nice touch. Which, probably will bring me to my final topic of the morning is mechanical storytelling is awesome. You should definitely try to put it in your games. Which is basically mechanical storytelling is when the action, the things the player can do reflect the story. And sorry that I'm not saying that right. Okay, so like Navi, for example. Navi doesn't just float around and yell at you and advance the story. Her function reflects her her game mechanic function reflects what she does in the story itself. She's there to help Link and guide Link, and it's not just in yelling at you and giving you exposition or telling you where to go. It's she's the one that flies to the enemy and hovers over them. Like that's mechanical storytelling in that sense. Okay, you could even in Metroid Prime in this game you could even uh, say that the caustic atmosphere of dark aether is part of mechanical storytelling. It adds the mechanic of your health slowly draining, which increases your sense of vulnerability and fear in the game, which is another good aspect for a horror game. Um, and it fits with the story. And as you progress through the story, you will eventually not be as vulnerable. You'll get the dark suit and the light suit, and as you progress, it becomes less and less. So the mechanic meshes well with the story. That's kind of the idea there. It's not it's not entirely necessary for a game to do that, but it is a very nice touch. Yeah, we're talking about Nintendo here. Oh yeah, Minda is another quality character with good mechanical storytelling there. Okay, I think I have to kill something here. Okay, I'm getting to the point where I need to actually stop talking and think. Is there a... Yeah, there we go. Okay, gotta go on the other one. I never actually owned a Dreamcast. Uh, I hope to rectify that one day. Just don't, you know, don't have the money for it. But that's another piece of gaming history that is would be pretty cool to have. My brother-in-law has one, just sitting in his basement with a bunch of games. It'd be really cool. He'd love to set it up for sure. Okay, what am I doing here? I did have some experience with Echo the Dolphin for the Sega Genesis, but I never really played it too much. I was a Nintendo kid. Did I not hit the... Oh, yeah, I didn't do it. Okay, there we go. Oh, okay. Wow, this is a puzzle. It's not just hitting the hitting the right things. Okay. I get it. I am sorry everyone. All right, let's do this the right way and then we'll call it a day. Okay, so all right, this is easy. All right, I'm just being dumb. Yeah, I've actually heard that Echo the Dolphin can be a very scary game at times, especially the last boss apparently. And I can imagine that uh, in Dreamcast with something more advanced. The atmosphere. Would you say that echoes a Metroidvania? Because I kind of feel like it is. Okay, so that one gets lowered. That one gets lowered. Wait, am I trying to lower them or or release them? Oh gosh. Lower them. I'm pretty sure I'm trying to lower them. But now I can't do that one because that's going to box me in. Got my eagle sounding. Alright, I think we have to call it there. I'll finish this on my own so you guys don't have to suffer through me solving a simple puzzle. Yeah, I think I should. That'd be a fun game to play for the first time. Echo the Dolphin, and then maybe emulate the Dreamcast version, or maybe even get it one day. That'd be cool. Anyway, Tim, thanks for mentioning earlier and saving my stream. I definitely probably wouldn't have noticed that my my mic was muted after that. So thank you for doing that. And Eamon, thanks for pointing out about my chat. I'll make sure to make a note and make sure people can actually chat when they do this. So, but yeah, thanks for chiming in. It's a lot of fun actually talking with people while I play. All right, we'll call it a day. Thank you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be around probably around the same time tomorrow, usually a little bit before 5 a.m. Central Time in the United States. So, all right, have a good day, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.